Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our online town hall for the seniors of the Rochester Community School District and their parents. We're glad you've joined us. If you don't know me, I'm sure you do, but if you don't, my name's Robert Shaner. I'm the superintendent here in Rochester, and I'm very blessed to be able to work with your kids and an awesome team of teachers and staff each and every day. So thanks for joining us. The format today, we have some special guests, and we'll introduce them in just a second. The format for today will be our special guests will speak. We have some kids, Anna Nickel with us, Grace Aratakis, Sudong Kim, and Montana Parson that'll help me be moderating this and asking some questions. And they'll start out by asking our special guests some questions. After our special guests are able to speak and answer some questions, we will then go into maybe some things that are a little bit more granular about graduation and the end of the year, if that would be okay. But before I turn it over to our guests and introduce them, I do want to thank our entire community and tell you how proud I am of you. I hope you know how much we love you, how much we care about you, and how much we miss you each and every day. And we're so thankful that we have the ability to connect with you on a regular basis and see your faces and help instruction continue. But most importantly, keep those connections and those relationships going. So having said that, ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to be joined by the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Michigan, Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist. Lieutenant Governor, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. And we also will be joined by Congresswoman Slotkin. Congresswoman, are you with us yet?
I am. I'm here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Unfortunately, Senator Mallory McMurrow and Representative Weber weren't unable to join us. They got called away. But I would like to turn it over to the Lieutenant Governor and then to Congresswoman Slotkin, if that would be possible. Lieutenant Governor?
Sure. Thank you, Doctor. And I want to thank everyone for not only the invitation to be back with Rochester Community Schools, but also I want to congratulate all of the seniors who are going to graduate this year and congratulate all of your families, because nobody graduates without support from the staff, from the teachers, from the professionals, and from your family members who have your back. And so I know that this is happening at a time that is, like, the word unprecedented has probably been thrown around more in the last 7 weeks than you ever would have imagined, but it really does describe this. We've never seen anything like this. This is something that's frankly wild to imagine, but we're here. And I just wanted to share with all of you who are graduating and then looking to begin the next chapter of your life, whether that's a career, whether that's college, whether that's anything else in between, wherever life takes you. I hope that from this time, I think you're going to take something special with you. Even, though this has been difficult for a lot of people, you may know people who've been directly impacted, or you yourself or your family members have been directly impacted by this pandemic. But I think that it's going to equip you in a really special way for whatever you're going to face as you move forward in life. Something that's been true for me certainly is that regardless of whatever experiences that I've had, I've tried to keep them all with me, because you draw upon your previous experiences when you're walking into the future. And so whatever you face going forward, I think you're going to be better equipped to deal with it because you have been able to come through this pandemic. And what I mean by that is a lot of you have had to really challenge yourselves to be more resourceful, or to be more creative, or to figure out how you can, stay connected to your friends and your family and your people who you care about when the default ways that we do that are not available to us because it's not safe. That kind of resourcefulness, that kind of creativity, that's going to spark the innovation that I think is going to drive the decisions you make and the actions you take going forward, whether it's because you want to start a business, you want to start a family, you want to become a rock star employee, you want to become a congresswoman like Alyssa Slotkin, whatever you want to do, you'll be able to do it better, I think, because you've gone through and experienced this. And even if something is hard, even if something's painful, if something's sad, it makes you stronger because you're still here. And so I would just hope that, coming through this, you will recognize that it's important to be present and to take everything you can from any experiences that you do have, because they are going to prepare you uniquely for the thing that only you can contribute to the world. I mean, it's like one way to define history is saying that it's something that only happens because you did it. Like the way that you can be historic is by doing the thing that you were put on this earth to do. And I believe that all of you have some specific difference to make. I'm still trying to figure out how to make mine, but I know that you will be able to do something that nobody else can do. And you'll be able to do it better, deeper, and in a more compelling way because you have been through this experience. This is a generational moment. This will be something that everyone in your generation remembers. Every generation has their moments like this. Whether it was for me, you know, I was a sophomore. I was the first week of my sophomore year of college when 9/11 happened. Whether it was Vietnam for my parents or whatever it is, generations have moments that bring them together. And I think this is your generation's moment, and I can't wait to see, you know, the things that you build or the things that are inspired by the conversations you're having and the connections you're making during this moment. So I want to thank all of y'all for being you. I know this is not the senior year that you anticipated, but it is your senior year. It is your year, and nothing can take that away from you. So just please own this experience and then go forward and own the future. I'm really proud of y'all, really proud that y'all are in Michigan, really proud that you're from Michigan. I can't wait to see how you represent Michigan wherever you go. I know that you'll stand tall. So thanks y'all for doing everything that you've done, and congratulations.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Appreciate those words of inspiration. And these young people, I often say when folks sometimes say they don't know what's going to happen to the world, I say we're good. Awesome young people, they're going to lead us in the future. With that, I'd like to shift over to Congresswoman Slotkin. Congresswoman Slotkin, welcome and thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be back. Thanks for putting me after the Lieutenant Governor. It's always really fun to follow Garland Gilchrist after he speaks. So I'll get you back later, Mr. Sheener. But I feel in many ways the same, that, you know, because this is such a generational moment, it's something that you all will tell your grandkids about. It also means it, you know, in some form or fashion will define your generation. You know, you will be known as the graduating class that graduated during COVID. That will go with you the rest of your lives. But you have an opportunity to define what that means. And I think because, you know, I'm married to a 30-year Army officer, and my stepdaughter and my son-in-law are in the Army, I'm very influenced by working alongside the military my whole life. And it is in these moments of adversity, of challenge, and uncertainty that leadership, personal leadership, really matters. Because no one knows. I mean, there is no playbook for what you all are going through. There is no one alive who can tell you how to transition into college and into your future lives through a pandemic. That does not exist. You are writing that. And because you have the opportunity to set the bar, you know, I would just offer that it's a moment to try and embrace as much as you can the uncertainty and turn it into something good, and not let it beat you down. Don't let COVID win. Don't let it bum you out so hard that you don't prevail over this thing. And while I know there is a ton of uncertainty on what's going to happen this summer, and then how college is going to look, right? How the next step is going to be. I would say take some personal leadership, remain clear and consistent, and focus on what matters. Be strategic. And there's a lot of stuff that will kind of ankle bite at you, that'll bug you. Focus on the most important things. And I do think, you know, listen, right now, you know, before COVID, one of the hottest places in our economy was Silicon Valley. And they will tell you that constraints breed creativity, that when you can't get everything that you want, that's when ingenuity like kicks in high gear. I've seen a number of your classmates do really amazing stuff online, and just kind of take the moment and say, okay, like, what can I do with this? And I guarantee you there will be some of you who look back on this time and say, well, I wasn't even planning to go into this field, or I wasn't interested in this, or I had no, focus on this issue, but I was sitting at home and I was bummed out because I wasn't able to be with my class, and I got really into X, Y, and Z, and then you end up doing it as a career. So as cheesy as it sounds, try to find your leadership power during this moment. You're transitioning into the world of adulthood. We're asking a lot of you. You have been recruited into this new generation that you are the team captains of. And how you define it is going to send a huge signal to all the kids who are coming up after you. So thank you, Dr. Shaner, for having me and putting me after the Lieutenant Governor. And thanks to all of our educators and our parents who have just helped our young people get to this point. I couldn't be more inspired by what is going on right now, and just people's personal fortitude during this moment. It's like every single day there is that silver lining that I see. So thank you for everything that you guys have done too.
Thank you both, and thank you for your kind words. I think I've heard you both speak now a number of times. And a while back, I think last spring, we spoke at Oakland University, Congresswoman, and you talked about the importance of relationships and being present in those relationships. And Lieutenant Governor, I heard you speak to that the other day when we were on a town hall with some other students about the importance of relationships and really keeping what matters in the forefront, and keeping that being explicit about maintaining those relationships and reaching out to people. And I know that stuck with me, and I know that message will stick with our students and with our families. So we appreciate that. I'd like to shift to the students, if you both don't mind, and let them ask some questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. So we have Anna Nickel from Rochester High School, and she'll ask the first question.
Hi, Lieutenant Governor. It's nice to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you again too.
My question goes to you.
Thought you guys might recognize each other.
I know. Sorry. Okay. So isolation has been proven to have negative health and physical, mental and physical health effects. And obviously everyone has needed to stay home and stay away from any type of human interaction. So I'm asking, what advice do you have for us students besides to stay connected? And what type of plan would you like to see roll out in the future regarding students' mental wellness?
Yeah, this is super important. And I actually want to start with the plan first, because I do think we need to have a really, comprehensive approach to this at every level. I think we in government need to be concerned about this and have a plan for this at the local level, at the state level, at the federal level. And sort of at the state level, we have been able to work with the federal government to draw down funds for what's called crisis counseling as part of our emergency disaster declaration. And that at least helps us have kind of a front or sort of a first line if people need help and need support and someone to talk to, a number that they can call. And that's helping actually fund something that we've made available for the Department of Health and Human Services from the state called a warm line. And we have some special services available on that line for young people, knowing that this is sort of a uniquely stressful time for young people in particular. It's stressful for people of all ages, but I think it's hitting people under the age of 20 particularly hard. And so we're trying to put in place more resources like that. I do think you talked about more beyond staying connected. I do think finding ways to stay connected is important. I mean, what's ironic about social distancing is it actually magnifies the importance of those connections. And so having to find ways to be able to get that human-to-human interaction that's safe in this moment is super, super important. I mean, I don't know, I call my grandma way more than I did before. I'm checking in on my friends and around the state or in other parts of the country that I went to college with and things like that. And I hope that that's a practice that all of us carry forward to continue to have better habits about making sure that we're checking in on our people. I think the other thing that I would suggest is something actually that I've just started to think about. I've never been a journaler, but I do think it might be a useful exercise for people to find ways to express their thoughts and to sort of get them out of only sort of bouncing around in their own head. In whatever way makes sense to you, if you're a writer, if you're an artist or something, or even if you just want to dictate it into your phone, But I think the act of like sort of getting the thoughts out could also be a helpful way for people to cope with all the things that they're feeling. And it could actually help them articulate things in a way that could lead to them seeking support if they need it, or supporting one another if you hear what somebody else is experiencing. So, but again, even that is grounded in communication and connection, whether it's communication with yourself or connection with others. I think that's really critical to the human experience. And so we're being reminded of this and the value that's being magnified now. And I think we're going to value it at a much greater rate going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congresswoman, would you like to speak to that?
I mean, you know, I think that, so I'm basically like a 95-year-old stuck in a 43-year-old body. I mean, in terms of technology, I think because I was a CIA officer and it was really, and then went to the Pentagon, they really did not encourage you to be very vocal and present on social media. So I was like behind, right? And so I just think sometimes the very things that keep us hyper connected are also like maintaining relationships through text and through social media doesn't actually give you the same depth of relationship with your people. And you gotta find your people, whether you're in high school or going on to college. Finding your people who you can, you know, really trust and believe in, and they believe in you, is like a huge lesson for anyone graduating high school. When you find your people, you got to connect with them in more than just constant text chains. You got to find a way. And so maybe it's old school, but picking up the phone, actually having a conversation as soon as we're able to be back together, actually like hanging out without the phones around. I know I'm like embarrassed for myself now, even the way that I'm saying it, but I really believe it, and really encourage relationships that go beyond just texting and social media.
Thank you so much. Sudong.
Hello. So to go off Anna's question, it's sort of the facts surrounding about the family that we have regarding education as well. Going on the news recently, there's been a lot of talk in many areas regarding budget cuts, and I was wondering how this could affect the school community. Namely, the school isn't just us as students, it's also the administrators and educators, as well as the support staff we have. And I was wondering how this could play a role in that.
Yeah, that's really real. I mean, this pandemic response and the way that we are trying to respond at the state level is costing the state a significant amount of revenue. To put that in perspective, with our, the stay home, stay safe, and pausing a significant portion of like business activity, we're seeing a whole lot less, sales tax revenue coming into the state. The traffic on Michigan roads is down more than 50%. So people are driving less, means there's less gas tax revenue coming into the state. And so, we're going to have some significant budget challenges both this year and especially in our next fiscal year. And that's going to lead to some really hard conversations because the state, we are obligated to balance the budget. Now, thankfully, we do have a partner in Congresswoman Slockett and the rest of our delegation in Michigan, because we're going to need support for state and for local governments, and that includes school entities from the federal government to help us, to help make us whole, or at least close to whole, as we get through this. And this is true for every state and every community across the country. The money that we're spending now is money that we need to spend to make sure that our people are okay, but we're going to need help to ensure that we get what we need. And I know that the Congresswoman is advocating for that in a smart and responsible way coming from Washington. But in the meantime, this is really going to be one of those tough decision points that confronts you as a leader, when you have to think about what are your values and how you can lead with your values even in tough times, and make sure that those values are clear. And we certainly, as our administration, we fought to bring equity to how schools are funded, and bring more equity to that funding formula and how that works, and to ensure that different districts having different needs, and they have the flexibility to meet those needs with the resources that are allocated to them. And we always are going to want that to be true. And so It's going to be challenging. I'm not going to pretend like it's going to be an easy conversation, but we're going to continue to try to make sure that educators have what they need. We do not think that it is any student's fault, any educator's fault, any paraprofessional's fault, any bus driver's fault, any school administrator's fault that this happened. And so when we're looking at how we get through this, we don't want someone to be held unfairly, to account for that.
And I will just add to that, you've literally hit on a very live issue right now in Washington, which is whether the federal government, as the Lieutenant Governor said, whether the federal government is going to help states and cities cover those lost revenues. And just by way of example, yes, sales tax and gas tax, but very close to home in Rochester Hills, none of the soccer fields are being rented out. All that money would go to Rochester Hills, all the picnic shelters, all these things that in our communities bring in revenue aren't bringing in that revenue. And that's why you're starting to hear stories of layoffs, right? That's a very real thing right now. So we're trying to say that the federal government should, make sure that states don't go bankrupt, that cities don't go bankrupt, that basic services like fire and police and first responders and our public health people, like the folks who are on the front lines of COVID-19, are the very ones that we're starting to have to do contingency planning to look at layoffs. That is not what anyone wants. So you've picked a good issue because it's literally ripped from the headlines going on right now in Washington.
Thank you both. Grace, go ahead.
Thank you. Hello, Lieutenant Governor and Representative Slotkin. Thanks for being here to answer our questions. As you know, many of our senior events have been pushed indefinitely to the future, and I think many of us see August as a time where we will hopefully be able to gather together. Do you see August as being a realistic time to gather, and do you see social distancing bans relaxing in the future?
Yeah, so I think everybody in the state of Michigan is eager for it to be safe for us to gather again in person, to be able to resume normal commerce and normal activity and all this kind of thing. I think everybody's really eager for that. With that being said, certainly the governor and I, as we think about what actions we feel are necessary to take, they're done with an eye towards our primary responsibility, which is protecting and promoting public health and public safety. And so that's led us to making some really tough choices as far as saying that we need to put all those things on pause, because according to the science and the medical experts, that was the thing that we needed to do to help slow the spread of the virus and decrease people's risk of exposure and infection and all those things. We do believe that those measures have had an impact, and we're starting to see the numbers bear that out in terms of the rate at which more people are testing positive or passing away seems to be plateauing. And we hope that we can get onto the backside of that plateau sooner rather than later. In order to get there, and in order to think about what it means to sort of re-engage or define what our new normal is going to be going forward for interaction, or at least for the next set of time, we got to have some important infrastructure in place. And so it's going to take some time to get there. And I can't predict that it's going to necessarily be there in August, but I can say these are the things that we need to have be true. We need to be able to, first of all, test way more people. We have to be able to make sure that people can get tested, regardless if they have symptoms, know their status. That needs to be something that we can do easily without constraints. And we're certainly working to try to make that happen with terms of resources from the federal government as well as from private sector sources. The second thing we need to be able to do is make sure that if somebody does test positive, that we can work with them to know who they came into contact with, so those people can also get tested. Because the worst case scenario is that you test positive and you go home and then you pass the virus on to somebody in your household, because we have no idea how a different person's body is going to interact with the virus. It could be mild symptoms for one person. It could put another person in the hospital. It could be fatal for somebody. So we want to be careful with that. And the third thing we have to do related to the second one is make sure that we can have people be able to isolate or self-quarantine in a way that's safe. Like, can you isolate in some place that has a bed and a separate bathroom, for example? And that's difficult for a lot of people in Michigan to do. So we have to make sure all those things are possible for people. And when they are, then it's easier for us to have the conversation about which activities are lower risk than others to be thinking about re-engaging in, both socially and for business purposes. So, I mean, certainly we're working hard every single day to try to enable all of that for as soon as possible, because everybody's getting a little stir crazy. But we don't want to, put anybody in harm's way unnecessarily either. So I would love for us to celebrate August, or for us to have, nice, safe Labor Day barbecues. So hopefully we can make that happen.
And I will just add, the only thing worse than having to go through this once is having to go through it twice. Like, that's a nightmare. I mean, think about it. You guys have to miss the end of your senior year. We decide, like, summer's here, we got to get out of our houses. Like, let's just take some additional risk, even though it might not be what the scientists and the medical professionals are telling us. We do it. And then boom, late August, early September, another wave, worse or the same even. And that's what places like, Japan are going through. They had a wave, they thought they were through it, they came back out, and we had an equivalent of one of their states just had to do a lockdown again for a second time. And like, what the worst thing for me, worse than you guys missing the end of your senior year, is completely missing the end of your senior year, the beginning of your freshman year, and the beginning of your second semester of your freshman year. I mean, so yes, we should all have that vision. Everyone should have in their head what they ideally want to be doing when we finally get out of this. For me, it's like a huge barbecue with all kinds of fireworks that I can set off here at my farm. Like, I have a vision of what I can do. My family, who I don't get to be around. But the only thing worse than doing this once is doing it twice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you both, and thank you both for joining us. It's an honor to have you here, and again, thanks for supporting our seniors and their parents through this very difficult time. One of the things that we often say here in Rochester is we really have the best versions of ourselves. When we pull all together, we support each other, and we love one another. And we're certainly going to do that through that. And we appreciate the Lieutenant Governor's support and the Congresswoman's support with that. Thank you both so much. Also today we were.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
thank you.
Good luck, guys. Take care.
Thank you. It's great to see you. We were also supposed to have been joined by Senator McMurrow and Representative Weber, and unfortunately they were called away and unable to join us. I know I spoke to Representative Weber earlier, and as you know, he's a resident in our community, and he sends his regards and his congratulations and his support to each and every one of you. Senator McMurrow sent a video, and we'd like to show that at this time, and then we'll shift into introducing the rest of our panelists and really get into some discussion about what's happening locally and what might happen. So, Ms. Linder, if you could play the video, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Hey Rochester seniors, I'm so sorry that I'm not able to join you for the senior town hall. We are still in session. We have been here since 10 a.m. We're looking at getting back maybe at 3, but congratulations, class of 2020. I know this isn't what anybody expected, but this is your year. You have been through something unbelievable together, and you're gonna be so much stronger coming out on the other side of it, and I can't wait to see what you do. I'm so proud of each and every single one of you. Congratulations. Go take on the world.
Thank you, Ms. Linder. I appreciate that. So, ladies and gentlemen, the way we'd like to do this, and please forgive us because I've never done this before. I'm not a talk show host. I'm a school administrator and a teacher. But I'd like to introduce the rest of our panelists, and then as you know, we had a thought exchange out where we gathered some questions from our community and our students. And what we'd like to do is I'd like to moderate a discussion going through those questions with our student reps, and really kind of organically have some discussion about these questions. So first of all, we are honored to be joined by Principal Neil DeLuca from Rochester High School. Mr. DeLuca, good to see you.
Good to see you, Dr. Shaner. Thanks for having me.
We have Principal Pasquale Cusimano from Adams High School.
Hi, everybody.
And we have interim principal from Stony Creek High School, Brian Shelson.
Good to see everybody. Thanks for having us.
And we have the principal from Ace High School, Susan Demnick.
Susan is having technical difficulty and will be joining us in a moment.
Okay, well, that fine professional in front of you is Miss Carrie Lawler, the Executive Director for Secondary Education, Equity, and Inclusion. And I
Hello, everybody.
work with her each and every day. We're also joined by Deputy Superintendent Debbie Fragamenti, who works usually in the office right next door to me and is a great partner in our work, as is our entire cabinet team. And again, thank you all for joining us. Hi, Debbie.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to have you here. Thanks, Bob.
Yeah. So I don't think we need to rehash a history lesson on what we've been through, ladies and gentlemen. I think we suffice it to say that we've been through this as a community. We've stuck together, and we are our best versions of ourselves when we do that, when we support each other and we love one another. And I hope the students that are listening have felt that love, have felt that support, that connection, and the importance and the explicit importance of those relationships. So I hope you're feeling that. We have a lot of questions. Much of it's regarding to end of year activities. I think we can have a great discussion of that. But I think it's important just to go back to what the Lieutenant Governor and the Congresswoman were talking about in terms of connections and making sure you maintain those connections. And you really have to work at it, especially when you're not physically present with one another. And I would really just like to give you an example of that. When you build those relationships, they last a lifetime. And when the chips are down, sometimes people pop up and they support you when you least expect it. And I know I've had that happen in my life in the course of the pandemic. Actually, just this past Sunday, I received a phone call from someone that I served with in the Marine Corps that I hadn't talked to in a very, very long time. And fortunately, in that situation, I was able to offer that person some support that they were in need of at that time. So please really work at those relationships, maintain them. I think Representative is right when she says, find your people and keep your people. That's critically important. And I'm blessed to have many people in my life. So having said that, I'd like to go ahead and start with the questions. And some of these questions are redundant and maybe we won't get through them all, but we'll give it a whirl and see what happens, okay? So let's start out with Grace. Grace, do you have a question you might want to ask the panel and discuss?
Yes, I do. So we've worked so hard and have been looking forward to our senior walk, prom, graduation, and award ceremonies. And we all want to celebrate these final moments with our friends so we can remember them for the rest of our lives. Even if it were in a new and different way, it would be great to have our families with us if possible and to celebrate with our friends.
Thank you, Grace. I think I might have froze up.
You're good, Bob.
Okay. Thank you, Grace, for asking that question. And we've been working on this as a team almost from day one, ladies and gentlemen. I'd just like to maybe defer to Mr. DeLuca first to just kind of answer that question. These are, I don't even want to use the word unprecedented because it's overused. I'm not sure what word I'm going to find to replace it. But I can tell you that it's certainly an unorthodox time in our lives and specifically in your lives. But this is something that we've been working on and we continue to work on as the time passes to make sure that we can celebrate you the best we possibly can. So why don't we start out with honors convocation? And Mr. DeLuca, if you can talk a little bit about the process of honors convocation and how we sought input on that and what that might look like. And then maybe we can share, and Ms. Lawler can jump in here, a little bit about our planning for graduation. And ladies and gentlemen, I know this feels like it's moving slowly and you want answers, but as you heard the Lieutenant Governor speak, we want to be able to have the best possible celebration for you that we can. And that requires us to buy ourselves some time as we move through and see what the guidance and regulations and what the science dictates. So if we could just maybe, Mr. DeLuca, you could talk a little bit about honors convocation and some of those things, and then we'll shift over to Ms. Lawler and talk about what our plans for graduation might be.
Yeah, I'll jump right in with honors convocation. And seniors, as you know, in all three of our schools, four of our high schools in Rochester, we go above and beyond to celebrate our seniors. And so when we sat down and talked about honors convocation, it's a difficult feat to do something that's either virtual, even live, but then we look at guidelines from the state and federal government to see where we go and where our planning went. So when Mr. Shelson, Mr. Cusimano, myself sat down and talked about honors convocation, we felt, what is it that seniors want? I mean, for honors, it's to be recognized. It's the recognition and the hard work that you put into really 4 years of work that you put into your school, and we wanted to honor you. So with that honors convocation, we did schedule dates for this year. It's the May 12th, May 13th, and 14th.
Grace, it's okay.
The power went out. We're back.
And hey, Grace, welcome back.
Hi.
And our honors convocation is going to be a virtual convocation. And this is kind of a test run for us, really. As you see in this environment that we're currently in right now, there are some bugs that we're working out. And so honors convocation really is a test run for our three schools to test run the technology that our school district has, and with connecting it with YouTube to honor our students. So what we're going to do is we'll do it virtually. So we're asking our parents and our students to log in and go into the YouTube account that we'll be forwarding to you guys through the Community Relations Department, and you will watch a live honors convocation. So you will be recognized live with the Board of Education, Dr. Shaner, the executive team, your teachers, and your school administrators on those dates. And so we'll be sending something shortly out to you guys regarding those links in the coming days.
Thank you, Mr. Lincoln. One of the things that we really focused on is trying to make it personal. We really went back and forth, and you don't know it, but on the back end, there's about 6 different people working the technology to make sure this is seamless. So we did want to make sure it's personal and safe, and we're going to give honors convocation a whirl and work the bugs out. And Ms. Lawler, maybe you can talk a little bit about our committee focus on graduation and how we're going to do that collaboratively to come out with something really special.
Sure, Dr. Shaner, I'd be happy to do that. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the town hall. I first want to say that there has been a great deal of collaboration. I work with all of the high school principals, and the 4 of them, as much as you all are sad about not having a graduation, I think that the 4 of them might be just as sad, or if not a little sadder, because it's a really big deal for all of us. So, we're all missing it. I just need you to know that. And I've been talking, I think we talk together just about every day. We're working together. So what we've been doing is collecting ideas, and people have sent us every kind of possible thought about how we could possibly celebrate graduation. It's unlikely that in June we would be able to get together with approximately 3,000 people like we typically have for a graduation. So we're looking for the best alternative to that. And so we've been collecting those and looking through them, looking at the feasibility. Again, lots of unanswered questions, like you heard Lieutenant Governor and Representative Slatkin say, there are so many unknowns still. So we're looking at that. We are going to ask a small panel of parents of seniors and seniors from each high school. We do want to make sure that when we do have a graduation ceremony, we're doing it the same for every high school. Perhaps there's something we could do jointly. There's all kinds of ideas on the table right now. So we're going to start to narrow that down. And again, time is on our side. The longer we wait, the more we will actually know about what we'll be able to do. So the principals and myself and some parents and students are going to be talking next week, actually, is going to be our first meeting to start to narrow down the options.
Yeah, and the reason we came to that conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, is, again, every decision we've made has been focused on what's best for kids, maintaining those connections and relationships. And we just know we're better when we're together. So we're going to work really hard to come to a collaborative solution, including our class advisors, our administrators, students, some parents that we've asked to help. And I would just ask that as we move forward together, everyone's suffering trauma and loss. I've done a lot of graduations and a lot of graduation speeches. I don't even want to tell you how many, although you can tell by the frosted tips that I have that are not colored, that it's been a few. And I still love it, and I'm going to miss it. And we're going to try to figure out a way to maintain those connections and a way, most importantly, a way that when you leave this school district, that you can feel our love for you and you know you're loved and you know where you're loved. So we'll get more out about that. But we have more questions. I think they do still talk about senior events. So let's jump into them. And Sudong, I think you're up next, bud.
I think most of the questions regarding senior events on my end were already answered, but one that did come up was in regards to classes for seniors who received school books. We aren't going to be able to keep those materials, obviously, since they're school materials. What would be the protocol or process to return those in the following year?
Yeah, I'll start, and then maybe Mr. Cusmano or Ms. Fragomeni or Ms. Lawler can jump in. We're really going to need people's cooperation here. This is really unusual for us not to have control of things we normally have control of, and that's one of the things, quite frankly, I think we all grieve a little bit, right? Normally, as a high school principal, you'd be able to collect up your books and your materials and make sure you inventory it and you had all your stuff ready to go for the next year. This is really, really going to be a community effort because of the materials we don't get back, we have to replace. And as you've heard over and over again, the economy's hurting, tax revenue's not where it needs to be, and every little bit helps. But maybe Debbie or Carrie or Mr. Cusmano, whoever wants to jump in, can talk a little bit about that. But most importantly, I think we're going to do it in a way that's safe. And if it takes us into June or July to do that, we're going to do it.
Sudong, we're working on a plan. We're thinking we have to get teachers in also. We have to get students in. So we're working on a plan, but we're always looking at direction from the governor on her executive order to make sure it's safe. Safety is number one for you guys. We want to bring you back too early. That's not our main concern right now, is to get the materials back from you guys. We will get those back eventually. So we're focused on all the events and trying to make them special. And we are working on a plan. We already have a plan in place for teachers to come in, for students, but we're just waiting until it's a safe time. So Ms. Lawler, Mrs. Fragomeni, did I forget anything? But we're waiting on a good time to do that.
I would just add that we know that students have a lot of things. Some of them have Chromebooks, some have uniforms to turn in, musical instruments. There's a long list of things that we know that people need to return, and we'll make sure that we have a date and a clear process for doing that.
Anna, it looks like you have some questions about, or a question about band and choir.
Yes, I do. My question is, so the band and choir being at graduation was always something that some students look forward to, and it's really important to a lot of people. Will graduation still have the band and choir if we end up having a commencement?
Boy, I mean, when you think about the end of the year events and there's so many talented kids in the arts in our school district, that is something that that is really near and dear to all of our hearts. It's just so moving. Ms. Lawler, are we able to say kind of what's in the works, or is it a secret?
I think we can say what's in the works. We have actually started working on a virtual band performance and a virtual choir performance that are allowing people to play from their own home and then all be edited together. And both the band and the choir are working on that. We're fortunate to have incredible directors, as you know, at all three of our high schools who have been given the equipment they need to do that, and they're starting that process. So if we have to be virtual, we even want our band and our choir to be virtual. So we, again, don't know what it looks like, but you couldn't do that on short notice. So they're starting to put that together in case that's the way that we go.
And even if we're able to do something that's modified, but maybe live and in person, we will make sure that somehow we're able to include those awesome performances and that closure that we usually get with graduation. And it's just it's so emotional. It's truly amazing.
Mhm.
Do you have anything to add? I think maybe we lost Debbie. Oh, there she is. Sorry.
I'm here. I'm here, Dr. Shaner. I'm a little delayed for whatever reason, but I think that Mrs. Lawler and our building administrators all can confirm that these traditions, these special events that mean so very much are the conversations that we're having. We're getting a lot of input from our kids of what's important, and we're listening, and we're looking for ways to incorporate this in whatever event we choose that we're capable of doing at the right time.
Thank you, Debbie. Montana, it looks like you have some questions about photographs and cap and grounds. Go ahead.
Yes, hello. We would like to have pictures taken with cap and gowns. Will we be able to get our cap and gowns?
Go ahead, Ms. Lawler.
Yes, in fact, just yesterday or the day before, we sent out a message with the dates for the pickup of cap and gowns. Principals, do you know which one? Can you just say which date it's happening at your building?
Yes, next week, Tuesday, which is what day, guys? Tuesday, May 5th is at Adams High School.
Rochester High School will be on Wednesday, May 6th.
Then Stony Creek is going to be on Thursday, May 7th.
And Mrs. Lawler, if I can interject on this one, that it's important to know that to adhere to your times that we put on that communication, because the last thing we want is the entire student body coming up there to pick up their cap and gown. So take a look at that email and please adhere to your assigned times that you're allotted for. And that's going to be a chance for you to pull up, and then it'll be pretty much curbside. Mrs. Lawler, back to you. Sorry, I wanted to make sure I included that.
Thank you.
With appropriate social distancing and universal precautions.
Yes.
We will also have the banners that have been ordered by your parents. The signs will be delivered that day as well. So you can start capturing some of those pictures and start decorating your houses as well.
Thank you, Debbie. Grace, over to you. It looks like you have questions again about end of the year activities. And this one I think is about prom, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it is. Hopefully I don't cut out like I did last time. So, but for seniors, we really want our prom, and we are willing to wait until August if possible. A lot of girls have already bought their dresses. I know I have, and virtual prom isn't the same, and canceling it would be awful. What is the update on prom? I know there's a rumor going around that prom has been canceled. Is that true?
This is a really tough question for us as administrators. But I think the best way to answer it is to be direct with you all. You all heard the Lieutenant Governor that even into August, he's not sure what he can promise us about being able to be in the same place in large crowds. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to do something. I think you're all aware that all of the venues that we would normally have a prom at are not available, and they're not even booking dates at this point. So I would say this: time is on our side. I don't know what that looks like. I can tell you this: if your prom is in May, like most of them are, I think we can all be honest and say that that's not going to happen in a traditional sense that we would like it to. But I do think if we're creative and we continue, I do agree with Congresswoman Slotkin, and I can say this as a veteran that's been in a jam from time to time. Sometimes those constraints on things cause you to be creative and think outside the box. So I think we can, if give ourselves some time here to not only process this information, but to think about what the possibilities look like and what they might be. And I don't know what they are. One of you guys is going to come up with a great idea that will either be later on in the year or early next year, or who knows what, or later this summer, or something virtually that's really cool, or something that's in person that respects social distancing. But I can tell you this, we can't give up hope. And I do believe that if we collaborate and we lean on each other, we can come up with something. It's not nothing looks like we're used to, right? Nothing's probably ever going to be exactly the same as it was. But I can tell you this, that times like this breed creativity. And I think if we work together, we might be able to come with something really cool. And my plan was to let the principals answer that. But as a former high school principal and as someone, quite honestly, that's got more skin in the game than usual, as my niece is graduating from Rochester High School, I just want to be straight with you guys and say that we're going to have to work together to do something really cool. And I don't know what that is yet. Anyone else want to chime in?
I do, Dr. Shaner. I just wanted to say, seniors, believe it. Please keep believing in us that we're going to do everything in our power. We stress about this every day. And I feel really good that our district is not making decisions too quick. Like, there's a lot of districts, I know you guys can get on social media and see what other people are doing, putting pictures up, we have all those ideas as well, but we don't want to, everything we say is why we want to decide that now if maybe something else can happen that would be better. So I just want you guys to have faith and believe that we're gonna hold off until we have to make a decision, so it's the best it can possibly be.
Thank you, Mr. Cusmano. Anyone else?
I just want to real quick jump in. We've had these discussions for probably over a month now, and between Grace and a couple other seniors that we've been talking to, and as well as staff, the list is really long, like 4 pages. The last town hall, I took notes for the principals, so we have it to look at. So we continue to look at those guys, and just know that, just like Mr. Cusmano said, we don't want to rush them because we don't want to cancel it again. We want to continue these on, and we want to make it the best for you. So whenever that is, just know that we do. We think about it every day. We whiteboard it out. We talk online, and we try to figure this out. So hang in there and just keep sending them in. We'll make the best we can.
And I would just like to add that actually, as you become young adults, we are operating from that lens of treating you that way. And please know that we love you and we know your families and that we know they love you as much. And we all want the same thing. And so I appreciate you saying that, Mr. Shelson and Mr. Cusmano. It's very important to us to do the right thing, to keep you safe and to give you a memory where you leave our district and hopefully return to our community in the future, and know that you are loved and that we did the very best by you. And that's what your teachers want for you. And that's what they're providing to you until we get to that place. Thank you.
Thank you. And if any of this jogs a question in your mind or a concern, of course, reach out to us Talk to Us, call your building principal, call me, call Ms. Fragomeni, call Ms. Lawler, send us an email. We definitely want to attend to you. So if any of this does, and maybe you have a question that didn't get answered today, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. I'd like to go back to Anna. It looks like she has a question about final GPAs, and I'd like to speak to that if she would ask that question.
Yes, hello. I have a question regarding if the third and fourth quarter will count. So my question is if third and fourth quarter grades will be reflected in our GPA.
All right, I'm gonna refer to our experts on that, and just maybe they can talk a little bit about how grade point averages are calculated for convocations and then how they go through the end of the year. And also if you could speak to a little bit about our conversations with colleges and regarding transcripts and that sort of thing. Whoever wants to go first, just go ahead and either raise your hand or jump right in.
Well, seeing no other volunteers, I'll take that one, Dr. Shaner. So in terms of the GPA, does the third and fourth quarter count? Yes, third and fourth quarter are counting for credit. So that does count for all students. So in terms of GPA, it does not factor into the GPA. So there will be no change. So what you had at the end of what would have been your 7th semester, your at the end of first semester of your senior year. Your GPA will be the same when you graduate as it was at the end of first semester. GPAs only change at semester time. So it's probably less important for seniors than the rest of the high school students, because generally you have applied to colleges in the fall, and sometimes they want to see your seventh semester. They want to see the end of your first semester, but very rarely do they ask to see the end of your year. Sometimes it happens as well. So really that GPA is not going to change. The good news on that is that our counselors are in constant communication with admissions offices all across the state and out of the state. And they've been talking to people. We've got lots of written confirmation that college admissions offices are going to be very lenient. They understand that everybody's in this boat. It's not just Rochester, it's not just Michigan, it's our entire country and the world. So everybody's in that same boat that we're in, and everybody is going to know what this time frame meant to students in particular. So that's what we've done, and your counselors continue to reach out. They continue to get information. So I wouldn't put a lot of emphasis on your GPA. What I would emphasize right now is making sure you're understanding the material, because don't forget, your next step is, for most of you, will be another level of education, college or community college or some sort of a training program, and everything that you learn now you take with you. And it's no longer about the grades. That's the good news. So you can forget about grades right now, worry about learning, and that's kind of cool for everybody. Principals, what did I forget?
I'd just say individually too, our counselors, you mentioned speaking with admission officers, they know specifically what we're doing versus another district. So we can't worry about the grades. I think you mentioned it very well, that the learning is the most important part, and know that every university in the state and out of state have already been contacting our counselors. And I know all the counselors at our buildings to know exactly what we're doing.
If I could add just a tiny bit for any ACE students or parents that have any questions, we do things just a tiny bit different. So just reach out to me personally, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
All right, Mr. Cuspano or Mr. DeLuca, any comments? All right, we get crickets in Rochester. All right, that's unusual. So to our, we're getting up here on an hour, ladies and gentlemen, and trying to be respectful of everybody's time. Anna, Grace, Montana, Sudong, is there anything that we've missed that we need to cover? That is a really important question that we need to answer.
I do have one last question. It's about the senior all-night party. So what will happen with that and all other things that we've already paid for in advance? Will we get reimbursed if any activity we paid for is going to be canceled or will not happen?
Okay, maybe Mr. DeLuca can take that question.
Thank you. Yes, our business department has worked on a process for offering refunds to students, and as principals, we definitely would want to get your money back to you. If it's a school-wide event, that we could refund your money. With being your all-night party, though, it's Dave & Buster's. It's an outside vendor that we would have to work one-on-one with. And the reality is that is Dave & Buster's even going to allow a senior all-night party at that time and venue? Basically, we're looking at the state and local government guidelines. We'd have to monitor that closely. So we'll work with the senior all-night party chairs. I know that Stony Creek does their all-night party on site, which is a little bit probably easier in regards to refunds. But though we'll work out with Adams High School and Mr. Cusimano and myself will work with Dave & Buster's to see how flexible we are with moving the date, as well as offering a refund to our students for that.
Thank you. Mr. Shelson.
Just Stony Creek hosts it here at the building, and so we are working with Mrs. Symington, who is our head of that. I've been in constant contact with her over the last couple of weeks, just looking at what we can do, but the same for refunds if we need to go that route. But we're gonna continue to work on that, and it's gonna be one of those things that we talk about in the next couple of weeks where we're gonna go.
Okay, thank you. Students, any other questions?
I have one final question. It's regarding the senior walk, which is something all seniors have looked forward to for their entire high school career. And if this the situation continues, would there be an alternate solution to this so that seniors could get this?
Let me take that one, and I'm going to go back to what I said a little while ago. I think there's a possibility of doing something. I don't know what that is, and I don't know what it looks like. I think it requires us to collaborate and to process, quite honestly. I think we've got to accept the parameters that we have and then get creative within those parameters. If you have ideas or thoughts about what we might be able to do, please reach out to your principals. I can tell you that it's something that's in the forefront of their mind. I got to tell you guys, as much as you miss it, as much as your parents enjoy it, we love it that much as well. It's not an imposition on us to do graduation or a senior walk or a prom. It's a celebration for us too. As an educator, it's not often that we get to see the results of our work, so to speak. And when we get to see you at prom dressed up as a young adult, or we get to see you walking out of a building in a senior walk and moving on to your next phase of life, it helps us validate why we do what we do and why we love you the way we do. So again, please continue to think about that, continue to be creative, and please understand that the parameters that we're under as well. And anyone else in terms of administrators want to chime in on that?
I'll just say, Sue Dung, that's on our list of things. We have everything on a list, and when we get together, we have all these crazy ideas of what we can do, and it always reverts back to a bunch of people all together hugging and celebrating, and then one of us will say, oh yeah, we can't do that right now. So we're just keep brainstorming, and we're kind of waiting it out to see what's appropriate at what time.
And I'll chime in, Mr. Cruzamato, like working with Mrs. Dominic, Mr. Cruzamato, and Mr. Selson. When we talk about an event in Rochester Community Schools, we always want to go above and beyond. And we're always looking at how to make it a special event for our students. And so I'll say this openly to everyone, and I'll speak on behalf of the other administrators, that whatever we're allowed to do, whatever the event is, we're going to maximize what our potential is as a district. For you guys. And then that's our goal. Every time, like Mr. Guzman said, every time we sit down and talk, it's like the sky's the limit. And then so Dr. Shaner's got to come in and say, whoa, watch out guys a little bit. You're on that social distancing.
Oh, it's always my fault. I see.
So where I'm going with this is that you can count on our leadership team here to whatever the guidelines are, we are going to knock it out of the park for you. But again, time is of the essence. It's on our side here. What Dr. Shaner was saying, we have a lot of time to start planning these things. So as we talk about prom, we could have a prom, yes, but we'll see if time allows us to have a prom. And when we do have a prom, if we can, we're going to have a prom that's going to be unlike any other prom before. But though we can't guarantee you that at this time. I just wanted to say that to everyone and let you know we're working for you guys in the background for sure.
All right. Any other questions from the students?
I have one last question regarding graduation. I think we've all really stressed how important an in-person graduation would be. The Air Force Academy was able to bring the class of 2020 together in their football field to celebrate graduation while practicing social distancing. We could do this on our football field and set up a stage to walk across. Parents could sit 6 feet apart on bleachers, and we could record it for others to see. Would some type of in-person graduation using social distancing be something realistic for us to do?
Thank you, Grace. So if you haven't seen the Air Force graduation, it's quite impressive. And if you've never been to one of our military academies, and I know we have a couple of students that will shortly be on their way to their plebe year, at least one from Rochester High going to West Point. It's very impressive. It's actually given me goosebumps to think about. If you did see the Air Force Academy graduation, they were separated. It's my understanding that the Air Force Academy did not have any families at the stadium. And if you've never been to the Air Force Academy, it is a Division I collegiate football stadium that probably holds somewhere between 25,000 and 50,000 people. So there's a lot of space. Again, I don't know what the possibilities are, ladies and gentlemen. We're working on it. We're working on it to make it personal. We're working on it collaboratively, so we hear your voice and we hear the community's voice. I just don't know what that looks like. But just to give you a little bit of scale, our largest football stadium holds 5,000 people. And that's with them sitting elbow to elbow in the little tiny little spots on the bleachers. So we're not anywhere near in the space of the Air Force Academy. And the other part of it, which is just the God's honest truth about the military, there's a lot of efficiencies to marching and learning that discipline, because you can move large numbers of people very efficiently. And I'm not sure that, no offense to anyone, I don't think we're at the level of military discipline where I can march you all into a stadium 8 feet apart and step and keep you that way. But having said that, I do think there's the ability to be creative and to work together and come up with something really cool. And I just want to make sure. I know someone's going to accuse me of stonewalling or placating you. I'm not. I have a lot of faith in the professionals and the students and the parents in this community that we will come up with something within the parameters that is as awesome as it can be in these circumstances. Any other questions that we missed? Thank you, Grace.
I have one more question. So to replace the senior breakfast, do you think it would be possible at the curbside pickup for our cap and gowns? Maybe bagels and coffees could be served at the end of the line?
That's an interesting thought, Montana. We hadn't thought about that. Let us consider that and get back to you. Would that be okay?
Yes, that would be fine.
Yeah, thank you so much. Any other questions that we missed? I'd like to wrap it up here in the next few minutes.
Dr. Shaner, if I could just add something that resonated, I wrote it down from Alyssa Slotkin's statement, was that this is an opportunity for this group of seniors. This is a generational moment, and you're going to help us to be part of the solution. You're going to help us create the future, and we're going to work right alongside you, and all the things that are important to you are equally important to us. There was just a question that came across Talk to Us, and we appreciate you putting things out there as you're thinking about them, because they matter to us. One of them was some confusion about the cap and gown distribution. There was a correction email that was sent out this week with the right dates that are next week that are not listed. So we'll make sure we resend that out so everyone knows what that looks like, the time frame that you are available to come up and drive by, and Johnston's will just put your materials in the back of the car. So that won't unfortunately be an opportunity for you to stop and connect with people at that time. It'll just be an opportunity for you to bring some special things home that you'll be able to capture and keep with you always. So from our administrative lens, we'll get those correction dates out one more time so that you can be sure to have those caps and gowns as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Fragabeni. Ms. Lidner, we're getting a talk to us about the link not working. If you're a person that's gotten knocked off the link or has not been able to be on, can you just please, if someone contacts you about that, please let them know this will be recorded and you can watch it on our website and on the YouTube channel over and over again if you like, because I know how much you love listening to me speak. Just kidding. Got to have a little bit of humor. But I would like to wrap it up, and I have a little message for the students as well. We've talked a lot about you, and like I would say in a graduation speech, yep, this is about you. But it's not just about you. It's about all the people that have gotten you to where you are. And it's stressful, it's traumatic, it's full of pressure. And I would just ask you to give your parents and your loved ones a break too, and offer them some support. You know, many of you are 17, 18 years old and have the rest of your life ahead of you. And you know, time doesn't go by as fast for you as it does for us that might have, you know, highlighted tips. But nonetheless, it's hard for us too. You know, I think about my nieces and my son's going to kill me for telling this story, but I'm going to tell it anyway. My favorite picture of my son and my niece is a picture of them at Disney World walking hand to hand when they were about 2 years old, with my son with his little bucket hat on, and my niece with her cute little summer outfit on. And I sit here today and I cannot think how quickly 18 years has gone by, and she's going to be graduating. And we certainly want to make it special for each and every one of you. But please, please give your parents a break and give them the support, and give them an extra I love you once in a while, because I assure you that they need it, and they would welcome it. They love you. They want to support you, but they're going through their own tough times too, and they need that support. So I'd like to wrap it up by saying this again: if you have concerns, questions, ideas, reach out to your principals, reach out to your classmates. Hit us up on Talk to Us, and really take us up on that. But I want to leave you with this thought, and it's a story because I love to tell stories. So recently, and I actually, on one of the first days of our closures, I was driving around the school district checking on food distribution. And there was a teacher at Delta Kelly that had raised steelhead salmon in the classroom with the kids. And he said, wow, that's awesome. I love that you're doing that. I want to share one of my favorite books with you, Elda Leopold's Sand County Almanac. And I hadn't gotten in the book, and I was getting ready to drive over to Delta Kelly. So I decided I'd run into Barnes & Noble. It was still open at the time. There's nobody in Barnes & Noble. And there's this kind of shorter man at the counter kind of taking his time. And quite frankly, I was probably getting a little more irritated with him than I should have, because he was kind of talking to the kid behind the counter and being a conversationalist. So I'm sitting there, I'm looking at this gentleman, and I'm thinking, I know him from somewhere. And he starts walking out, and I put a copy of Sand County Almanac on the table for the teacher that I wanted to buy it for, to share my favorite book with him. And the gentleman turns around and he goes, Bob Shaner? And I said, yeah. He's like, it's me, Jim, your assistant principal from Sterling Heights High School. And I said, hey, Mr. Trope, how you doing? And he's like, hey, I'm doing great. And I just want you to know I'm proud of you. We want each and every one of you to know that we are proud of you. We love you. We miss you. And we're going to do everything we can to celebrate this senior year the best we can. Take care. Stay safe. We love you.